something about the red pill. I was one of the only guys talking, like there was a very small group of guys talking about these things, understanding these terms, and now it's blown up to the point where it's a Netflix show that they're talking about it. 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boys, they know about the manosphere and the red pill content and all of these talking points to that level.
Because there's so many different layers. The way that a 13-year-old boy can feel like his life is over at 13. Other men are teaching boys this.
Something about the red pill. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting that he's talking about this. And then he had mentioned the show on Netflix, Adolescence. Mm-hmm. And
I hadn't even heard of it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So we watched the show. So this episode is about breaking down that show. And so there's going to be spoilers, obviously. So if you haven't watched it, you can watch it. But yeah, that's basically it, because it's a very important in the zeitgeist of society today. It touches on a lot of topics. So
yeah, and we also listened to the Diary of a CEO episode. Well, I listened to the full thing. I don't think you've listened to the full thing, but talking about this topic as well, they kind of like go together in a way. So I'm sure we'll reference that as well too. I don't know the proper title of the episode, but it had a men's coach as a guest, and then
I can't remember his name now.
A lady from Hinge.
Is it Gary something? Gary? I don't know.
I don't know.
Look it up, but
people are going to be mad. They're going to be like, "You didn't do exactly. You didn't come
check the show
facts.
notes. Go to the website. Check the show notes that we don't have yet, but
go to the website. I'm like, there is no website.
I need to get the website. Need to get show notes and transcript going on. I just realized, I figured that out because I'm putting together a program for software developers called Rockstar Developer University, teaching them either to build a YouTube channel, launch a podcast, or create a blog or write a book. And I was like, one of the things you should do with your podcast is have a website, and you should have show notes or a transcript. So we need to do that. So, but so synopsis of the show. So what is the show about? Again, spoiler alert, but it's not, the show kind of says what it's about at the beginning, so it's not really much of a spoiler, but it's essentially about a 13-year-old boy. Mm-hmm. This is set in North England, North UK, and he kills a 13-year-old girl. He stabs her multiple times. And it's about what happened. Like, it basically just starts with that, and it's about him being arrested. That's where it starts. And then what happened, them investigating the school, and what's the motive? Why did he do this? Right. Mm-hmm. And, and no surprise, it turns out that it's multiple things, but essentially what comes down to a lot of kids on the internet today at a young age being exposed to, quote, red pill content, mm-hmm. or just destructive the manosphere that is mentioned in the show, which is mm-hmm. interesting. And these ideas that we're going to use all the keywords here that will make this video not, but incel, the inceldom, right? All of these kind of concepts that were in a microcosm, mm-hmm. right? Not too long ago. Back in the day, when you first met me, I was one of the only guys talking. Like, there was a very small group of guys talking about these things, understanding these terms, and now it's blown up to the point where it's a Netflix show that they're talking about it, mm-hmm. And so essentially that is the reason why. And there's also some things having to deal with masculinity and his father and the anger mm-hmm. involved in that, and the example that he's seen. But the big sort of overarching message of the show is this, like, hey, kids are on the internet and they are getting exposed to this stuff.
Right. And they're believing it. And, they're living from this place of someone on the internet told them that they're never going to be with a woman. They're never going to have a relationship. They're ugly. They're never going to be a Chad. You can never get jacked. You can never make this much money. Women only want 20% of men. Yeah,
the 80% of women want the top 20% of men.
And then 13-year-olds are believing that they're just never going to get there.
Right.
And so they don't try.
Right.
Because they feel like they can't, because these guys on the internet told them that you might as well give up.
Yeah, you need to be a Chad.
So they do give up, even though they're 13.
Right.
And they have no idea what their life is going to be like.
Right. They could literally become a Chad. They don't even, that.
And they're living so many years in anger.
Yeah.
And then they end up becoming violent.
Yeah.
So what's happening?
And it was interesting timing, just because one of my nephews actually had just messaged me. It's like, oh, I found your YouTube channel. And, and I was like, because he's like 10 or 11 years old. And it's like, man, there's young boys. I mean, I'm glad now the content that I produce, that it's good. Mm-hmm. It's good even for a young boy. But even back in the day, the content I produced, some of it was more explicit. So that would be my concern. But it was always positive towards women and with the positive masculinity. So I'm glad, especially now, that I can say, okay, if young guys are watching my stuff, that they're going to get a positive message, not a negative one. But it's just crazy to think that 10-year-old, 11-year-olds are, and what I was telling you about, from the show, was that our daughter, she is obsessed with K-pop. And specifically a band, BTS, right? And that she knows all the names of every single person in there, all the videos they've been in, all their albums, all kinds of trivia and information about BTS. Mm-hmm. And she's gotten it all from the internet because she's obsessed with them, watching YouTube videos and all this stuff. And I was like, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boys, they know about the manosphere and the red pill content and all of these talking points to that level. Mm-hmm. Because when you're that young, you obsess about those things, and that's what you do. You consume as much content as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And so that's scary. It's extremely scary, because we have had the run-ins with the guys who are older who believe these things. We've debated them. We've been on the black pill podcasts and talk to them. Mm-hmm. And I've been involved with the, not to hate to give it clout or anything, but the 21 convention and guys like Anthony Johnson, who, that space of, and we've dealt with those figures and those people even attacking us and,
for no reason.
Right. And it's such a toxic, extreme mindset that it's scary when you've got 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, these young boys that you can't talk any sense into, because they're like, oh, no, they have their talking points. They know that they're correct, and they understand women, and they know exactly how women are, and all women are like this. And
even though they've never talked to a woman themselves.
Right.
And you say it's scary.
Yeah.
Imagine how it feels being a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is terrifying to know that more and more men are becoming more and more angry, specifically towards women.
Yeah.
And like the show that it's this woman-hating hopelessness that is being created by these like content creators that are perpetuating this to everyone.
Cult leaders, we'll call them, because that's
basically
what they are.
It is promoting more and more violence, not less. And you and I both know that the internet is a place where anger and negative emotions really thrive.
Right.
And that is what people tend to gravitate towards. But it's just creating more and more hostility and not resilience and weakness. Exactly. Like these men think they're being strong, and boys.
Right. Yeah.
Because they're like, I know the truth. And I can stand in this. And they think that that's strong.
Right.
But really, it's weak to believe that you cannot change your life. That women dictate your life.
Right. It's a fixed mindset. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And that there's nothing you can do about it except be angry.
Yeah.
And I think genuinely the content creators of like red pill content, black pill content, whatever, don't even know that they're not teaching men or boys the truth.
Right.
They're taking away men and boys' hope in
Right.
themselves
Right.
and in their future
Right.
and in all the things that they want. And, you know, we talked a lot about this
Yeah.
TV show while it was going on. And normally
Yeah.
we don't talk about the topic,
episode,
you know,
but yeah.
before, but it was really hard not to because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many different layers, including like the parenting part, which I'm sure we'll get to
Yeah.
in this as well, like because I do think that's important. And, you know, the way that a 13-year-old boy can feel like his life is over at 13
Oh, yeah.
and that other men are teaching boys this
Yeah.
and they think they're doing the right thing.
But
They're not.
Some of them, most
they
of them
think
don't
that it's
think they're-
women's fault,
Yeah.
and they're blaming women.
Right.
But those men are taking away those boys' hopes.
Exactly, yeah.
They're not teaching them how to talk to women or how to better themselves or how to work on themselves. They're
Exactly.
telling them there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that are taking away the hope in these boys. It is not women, but these boys are so mad at women and not mad at the men that are making them feel this way. And again, no one can make you feel that way, but as a 13-year-old, you are influencing them to a level that they don't even comprehend. They think they're making a decision on their own, but they're not.
Yeah. And we talked about what happens when you take away hope from young men. You get violence every time. Historically, this has been the case. We were talking about how with 9/11, what happened with the terrorist attacks, when people become blow themselves up, what is the mindset always? It's hopelessness. They find young men who are in desolate situations where their family is poor, where they have no hope of anything, any kind of real future, and that's what inspires the violence. That's when you look at the regions of the world where young men are uprising in violence, where horrible atrocities are being committed against women and against their fellow men. It is in places where there's hopelessness, right? If we look in the United States, you look at the inner streets of Chicago, hopelessness. That's what, it's extreme poverty and hopelessness. That's what breeds that killing. If you look at in Mexico, where there's some of those cities where women are being slaughtered, dumped in ditches, again, it's hopelessness. Colombia, same thing that we see there. It's like in the Middle East where there's a huge amount of violence. Again, you look at Palestine, you look at any of those places, and you're going to find young men who are frustrated, who have no hope for the future. And that's where the violence comes from.
Better than